So today we're going to talk about causes of disease or patterns of disharmony attributed to the kidneys. So what causes those patterns of disharmony or disease for the kidneys? So there are a few different potential causes. Some are simply what you've inherited, or could be what you've inherited from your parents, your ancestors, your genetics, and then some of it is influenced by lifestyle choices and also the emotions. The emotions always play a role in well-being from a Chinese medicine perspective, and can be the cause of disease. So first of all, hereditary causes. So like last week we were talking about the kidneys are really intimately linked with our jing, or what's translated as essence, which is passed on to us from our parents, kind of like our genetics, related to that. And so this is what gives us our constitution, essentially, like whether we have a robust constitution, a weak constitution. So it's just kind of the hand that you're dealt, and that you have no sway over. So for some of us, we come into this life with some setbacks, whether it's like physical, mental, or some of us come in with a really robust constitution and just very healthy, not really susceptible to getting, cold or flu or things like that. Strong and good energy. So that is related to our genetics, to what we've inherited from our parents. And from a Chinese medicine perspective, this has to do with just the constitution of our parents, or our ancestors, and also the age at which our parents have us. So if someone has a baby later in life, this is seen as passing on weaker jing or essence to the child. And so, but those parents might have a really robust constitution, so it evens out, and it doesn't mean that you will have any pronounced weaknesses per se, or kidney deficiency. But from a Chinese medicine perspective, that can be a factor in an inherited kidney deficiency, having a baby at an older age, or just being of a weaker constitution, passing that on to the child. So pretty straightforward. And then the next potential cause of disease for the kidneys, the emotional cause, would be excessive fear. So like we mentioned in previous classes, fear is the emotion related to the kidneys, and we talked about kind of the healthy to unhealthy spectrum of this emotion. So there's obviously like an evolutionary purpose to fear, and it has played a role in survival for our species, and to some degree perhaps it's necessary to have fear or beneficial, but it certainly can get excessive, and it can turn into like a state of hypervigilance or paralysis, where a person is always viewing something as a potential threat, always bracing for disaster, or is just kind of paralyzed, unable to move forward. And on the other end of the spectrum could present as a sort of recklessness, a kind of daredevil type way of being, and that also can be just as unhealthy. So the healthy middle ground of the water emotion, I think of it as being aware, being vigilant, but without the tension that can be associated with fear, right? Being alert, aware, and to some degree future oriented about possibilities in the future, to some degree prepared for those future possibilities, but in a balanced kind of way. And so excessive fear can cause our chi to descend. For some reason, particularly in children, can cause that chi to just kind of sink. And that leaves us kind of susceptible or vulnerable. And then in adults, it can cause the chi to rise. I think because it ends up after a lifetime or a longer time of excessive fear, we can drain our chi and particularly our yin energy, and then that leads to more like that anxiety, restlessness, insomnia, and a dry mouth. So different symptoms that are signs of chi rising, and perhaps what's called empty heat, that is not a true like full body heat, but a lack of that kidney yin nourishing energy, so that we might get like flushed in the face, hot flashes, a lot of kind of menopausal symptoms can definitely be attributed to kidney yin deficiency, maybe not related to excessive fear. But in any case, fear is the emotion that most injures the kidneys when imbalanced. So then getting into more lifestyle behaviors or choices that can deplete the kidneys. Excessive sexual activity is seen as a cause of kidney deficiency traditionally in Chinese medicine. So that would be like essentially orgasming an excessive amount. And I think there are sources that have like particular numbers and limits suggested. We won't get into that detail, but that is seen as a potential depletion of the kidney energy. And chronic illness is another potential cause of kidney deficiency. So this is not obviously a lifestyle choice, but it could be the result of lifestyle choices, or it could be relating back to that, like inherited deficiencies. It could obviously be something completely different, exposure to toxins, or numerous different causes to that. But the chronic illness can become its own cause of depletion to the kidneys, either the kidney yang qi or the kidney yin qi, which in next week's class we'll get into those different patterns of kidney pathology, what that means, what that looks like. But just that sustained weakness and illness over a long period of time is going to probably drain the kidney qi. Old age tends to deplete the kidneys, so it's just kind of inevitable over the course of your life. Aging is seen as a depletion of kidney essence or jing in Chinese medicine. So like I was saying, I think last week, we have a certain amount of jing we come into this life with, and you don't get any more. It just kind of depletes naturally, inevitably over the course of our life. There are practices we can do to preserve it, but it's inevitable, it's natural that it will deplete. And so that can result in those like aging signs as we get older. And so it's not necessarily something to try to avoid, right? It's a blessing to live into old age, but sometimes we can prevent those like aging signs, either the severity or the earlier onset of them. And then lastly, but certainly not least, is overwork. Is the last cause of kidney pathology that we'll talk about today. And so overwork can mean a lot of different things, but most of us are probably familiar with it in some way or another. So it could be physical overwork. A lot of us, though, these days tend to be mentally overworked. So physical overwork more so depletes the kidney yang qi, and mental overwork and stress more so depletes the kidney yin. And then a depletion of the yin or the yang can lead to depletion of the other, right? As they are interdependent energies. So this doesn't necessarily just mean how much time you're working, but the state of stress that you may be in. If it's physical labor, how you're using your body, and also our eating habits. That is more so, we think about that related to the spleen and the stomach, the digestive organs, but over a long period of time, then that can start to deplete the kidneys as well. So irregular eating habits, meals that are not nourishing or that are eaten rushed, or thinking about other things in a state of stress, what have you. So this is really the I think the main focus that we should have in terms of preventing kidney depletion, is examining our lifestyle in terms of work, and not only how much we may be working, but the state of mind that we're in while we're working, physically, mentally, taking note of stress you may be holding and practicing ways of releasing that, or at least just bringing awareness to it to start. Making a little more time for nourishing meals, right? Like If you've been to Healing Center, at least in the Maynard location, we have fried rice lunch, 12 to 1 or so, on Wednesdays and Thursdays when Dr. Wu is there. And that's what, for that time, we're just eating lunch, maybe socializing, enjoying each other's company, eating a nourishing meal. So that is part of helping to preserve our kidney qi. Practicing qigong and tai chi, getting good rest, and whatever works for you to rest and relax, receiving tui na, acupuncture, perhaps herbal medicine. So that is, I think, the major takeaway is to incorporate more rest, relaxation, and not only in breaks from work, but even while working, to bring awareness to ourselves, to our mind, our body, to find ways, because for most of us, we need to work to survive, right? But we don't need to be stressed. It may feel like we do, but we don't actually need to be stressed. So I think that's why so many of us enjoy being around Dr. Wu. That embodiment of joy and ease that he has reminds us it's possible to live a different way than what we tend to see. So on that note, we will pause there, and I'll be back momentarily for some kidney nourishing qigong. All right, I'll see you in a bit.